As the World Evangelical Alliance, we greet the Philippine Council of Evangelical Churches for its 34th National Assembly. I bring greetings from myself here in Bonn, where I'm living in Germany, but also from Dr. Perong Lin and Dr. Brian Winslade, my two deputies. I also congratulate you for your topic, Decade of Discipling. The Philippine Council of Churches, of Evangelical Churches, is something very special to the World Evangelical Alliance because it's the only national alliance that exists that gave two of its general secretaries over as secretary generals to the World Evangelical Alliance. Of course, I'm talking about Dr. Augustine Wenzel, called June, who was the international director, as it was called then, from 1992 to 2001, and about my predecessor, Dr. Ephraim Tendero, who was your bishop and your general secretary, and then my predecessor. And I'm reminded of him every day because on my shelf I have a present which he brought me when he visited me here last time for the handover ceremony. Talking about Bishop F, I'm very happy to report that I, so to speak, fulfilled his legacy in one topic where he was working on, but he could not finally proceed with it. I'm very happy to report that just today we decided as the Office of the Secretary General to start a global evangelism network, which is part of the Global Witness Department, which includes the Mission Commission and all our mission work, but now has a special global evangelism network. Today, we also will appoint a new executive director for it. This was on the heart of Bishop F, and I'm glad that I can fulfill this, that it is visible once again that beside all the many things WEA is doing and is doing on demand of the national alliances, evangelism and discipling have to stay at the very center. Matthew 28 tells us that Jesus himself, in the authority of God, handed over to his disciples the task to evangelize, to preach the gospel around the world, to baptize, so to have a visible beginning of people following God and have a Jesus in their heart, and then it says, and teach them everything I have taught you. This implies the church. It implies that we stay together to help each other, to teach each other. And how important that is, you can see if you take the four Gospels. The four Gospels have two major topics, if you just follow the percentage of the text. One, of course, is something Jesus did and only Jesus could do. That is his way to the cross, to give his life and to assure salvation. In obedience to his Father, he became a man, even so he stayed God. He lived his life, he gave his life, and salvation is there forever. But there is a second topic that even takes much more space in the Gospels, and that is his relation to his disciples. And actually, most of what we know about Jesus living here on earth has to do with his relation to the disciples. Isn't that amazing? God himself becomes man to save our world and does not only preach the gospel and create the gospel through his death, but takes time and energy to train disciples. A lot of the stories we know about Jesus, a lot of speeches we know about Jesus, we know because he trained his disciples with a very sophisticated program, which I cannot explain now for the time being, but it's very obvious he created the future leaders by investing time. And he told us very clearly that he has been sent by God also for this. John 17. He says very clearly that God ordained him to train the disciples so that they could go on and preach the gospel. Paul took this over. His whole mission strategy and ministry circles around training disciples who can take over. In the big picture, like Timothy, as well is in the global, in the local church, we also trained the first leaders to become those who become the elders of the church. That means evangelism and the gospel and discipling belong to each other. You cannot separate them. God did not only come to save people, but then to change their life so that they become holy themselves, but also eager to ministry to others, to preach, to help, do everything I have taught you. And so to talk about evangelism and discipling is a major topic of the Philippine Council of Evangelical Churches. I've studied its history thoroughly, and I can see it has been on your heart also. You do not start now by taking up the topic of discipling, but you want to assure that it stays in the middle and that you reach out to even more people and help more churches to disciple. And World Evangelical Alliance congratulates you for your topic and wishes you all God's blessing to assure good goals for the future.